Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the On the Diamond Into the Deep podcast. As always, I am your host, Mahal, and today we are on episode 67, and we will be talking about an absolutely brutal weekend series against the Toronto Blue Jays at T-Mobile Park, and we will be previewing the series against the Yankees on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So, without further ado, let's get into it. To begin, let's not talk a whole lot about this, but we do have to mention it because it is the end of the Mariners' 9-series win streak, a almost franchise record, second now in terms of Mariners history in terms of series win streaks. But it comes to an end, and it comes to an end in kind of a brutal way. They get swept by a not great Toronto Blue Jays team. Starting pitching sort of fell apart, bullpen sort of fell apart, offense sort of fell apart. So it was a mix of everything. You're going to need everything to bounce back in this Yankees series and then in the Padres series this weekend if you want to get back to where you were and get back to playing fun, good baseball that people want to go out to the ballpark and see. I'll be at the ballpark tomorrow night. Hopefully we will get a good game. It's going to be a fantastic pitching matchup from the looks of it. Max Fried and Brian Wu. But the Blue Jays series, you get swept in 3 games. It's one of those series where you just kind of wipe and move on. Couple things to talk about. Carlos Vargas gave up 3 runs in the 8th inning of Saturday's game when the game was tied. Came into a hold situation, and he did not get the hold, to say the least. That's something that hadn't really happened yet this year, and that was sort of a theme of the series. You know, Jorge Polanco, Cal Raleigh, JP Crawford all sort of had bad series. JP Crawford had a solid third game with a couple hits, but overall saw a pretty cold series for the 3 of them. And then something that has continued to be a problem is Bryce Miller, and it's frustrating, and it's not something that you want to see or want to talk about. But as I've mentioned now 3, 4, maybe even 5 times in the past week and a half, the dude pretty much needs to be put on the IL when George Kirby and Logan Gilbert are back, and maybe even when George Kirby is there, because for the both of them, you're still looking at 3-ish times through the rotation, and that's 3-ish starts for Bryce Miller when the guy, obviously his body is fatigued, his arm is fatigued, he's not at his best, he's giving up runs to a point where the Mariners don't have an opportunity and a chance to even win the game unless they have the most ridiculous offensive output that they've ever had. And it's losing them ball games, and that's something you don't want to do over the course of a season. You don't want that to add up, because as losses add up, that means wins don't add up, and you need wins to make it into the postseason. And we've seen over the past 2, 3, 4 seasons, very often that comes down to that last weekend series, and it comes down to a game or two. And those couple starts where Bryce Miller's not at his best, and maybe you're automatically basically losing a game with him on the mound, that could come back to bite you. You could look back at that at the end of the season and be like, oh, I guess that's a reason why the team's not winning. The question is, do you want to keep up Logan Evans, who also didn't have a fantastic start? And Luis Castillo also hasn't been great. So you have 3 guys in your rotation right now that are just not at their best. When Brian Wu is at his best, he wasn't at his best earlier this week. He had a tough start, but hopefully he'll bounce back tomorrow. But you need your guys at your best to win ball games, and that's a theme from the rotation, the bullpen, and the lineup. In terms of the lineup and where they struggled, they've struggled in May in terms of walk rate, on-base percentage, average, and slugging, which is one of the things, well, 4 of the things they were doing best at. Specifically, they were really high slugging, really high on base, and the best team in terms of walk percentage. And that has now fallen off of a cliff, as they are 21st in walk percentage, 15th in on base percentage, 15th in average, 20th in slugging. If you can get on base, if you can get homers, you're going to win more ball games. In terms of the stats, just from this Jays series, 5 walks, 2 homers, and both of those homers were solo homers, so not adding up a lot of runs there. And only 5 walks for this Mariners lineup is practically nothing. You're going to hopefully see those bounce back, especially in game 1 and game 3. Game 2, you have a very, very good starter in Max Fried, a guy who's top 20 in walks per 9. But other than that, you have guys with walks per 9 in the 4. And if you want to know if that's good or bad, that is bad for the starters. We'll get into that as we get into the series, but you don't want a walks per 9 in the 4. And if you're comparing that to how many walks the Mariners had in the entirety of the Blue Jays series, that would be almost as many total. And just in terms of Clark Schmidt, it's almost as many with as his walks per nine is in the middle fours. And the Mariners walked 5 times. So very similar there, and something that the Mariners are going to need to do. They're going to need to hit homers. They're going to need to hit doubles. They're going to need to walk as they have been the entire season. And that's not something that I'm worried about. You're going to have an off series here and there that's going to happen, but it can't be a trend, and that's where problems would arise. Getting into the Yankees series, let's talk about the offense and the pen and just the Yankees in general. Yankees are 23-17. They are in first place in the American League East by 2 games. They have the second best win percentage in the American League. Who has the third best, if you're asking? The Seattle Mariners. So this is going to be a very entertaining, very good series. Hopefully, you have the second and third best win percentages in the American League, and you have the best hitter in baseball. Let me rephrase. No shade to Shohei Ohtani, but Aaron Judge is on another planet right now. WRC plus of 254. They are also getting huge production from Goldschmidt, Ben Rice, couple other guys. Trent Grisham has been hugely productive for them in the leadoff spot, getting on base, scoring a lot of runs with Aaron Judge right behind him. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to limit Grisham getting on base and guys on base when Aaron Judge steps to the plate. That is the formula you're going to need to win, because Aaron Judge is going to hit a homer, if not multiple, in this series. I'm going to book that right now. And if you can limit those to solo homers, you're going to be in a lot better place than you would be if he's hitting 2-3 run homers or even a grand slam. In terms of WRC plus for that lineup, Trent Grisham, 175, Ben Rice, 165, Goldschmidt, 155. Obviously, if you don't know, WRC plus, league average to 100. It's basically your value as a hitter. That's how I think about it. So 55% above league average for Goldschmidt, 65 for Rice, 75 for Grisham, 154% above league average for Aaron Judge. In terms of the bullpen, Luke Weaver, Fernando Cruz, both been very, very good. Luke Weaver has not given up a homer, and he's only given up 1 earned run this entire season. Fernando Cruz, if you want to talk about a guy that is just filthy, 40% strikeout rate, whip under 1. He's not giving up a lot at all. In terms of where you can maybe attack Devin Williams, but he's been better as of late. But if you can attack Devin Williams, get him into some stress positions, maybe you can go and find some success against that bullpen. But the back end of that bullpen is very good. That 8th, 9th inning is going to be difficult. Get your runs early, get ahead early, trust your bullpen, trust your starter, trust your defense, and let's go win some ball games. I think that's the most important thing there. In terms of, like I already talked about, get the 7 to 9 out in the lineup and get Grisham out, because you need to not have runners on in front of Judge. If you have runners on for Judge, you're going to have problems for yourself. In terms of the Yankees, they are first in home runs with 70 so far this season. They're second in walk percentage, just behind the Mariners. They're in first in ISO, on base percentage, slugging, WRC plus. They are basically the best offense in baseball. It is a massive test for your bullpen. It is a massive test for your rotation. Luckily, you probably have your 2 best starters right now, and Emerson Hancock and Brian Wu on the mound for the first 2 games. Tonight's game is a huge game, just in terms of vibes, in terms of how you're entering the series, in terms of potentially winning the series. You need to win tonight's game, and then you need to have a good start from Brian Wu and see what happens in game 2. Game 2 is a little bit of a toss-up for me, but I think you can handle game 1 and game 3, especially if you get a decent start from Castillo. But, I kind of doubt that happens considering the shit he has been doing lately. What you got to do is limit free passes, limit homers. Like, that is easier said than done. But if you can limit walks and you can limit home runs, you're going to be able to find yourself some success, and you're going to be able to do better than you did against the Blue Jays. Because when you walk guys and you let them hit home runs against you, that's going to cause yourself problems. That's going to work your bullpen into the ground, and that's something that the Mariners have struggled with. So hopefully you can get some length from Hancock tonight, some length from Wu tomorrow night, and hopefully you can just get 5 solid innings from Luis Castillo, because that's all I can ask for at this point, because the guy has been a garbaggio. Game 1, let's get into it. Clark Schmidt, Emerson Hancock. This is a massive, massive test for Emerson Hancock. He's been really good since coming back, but can he continue it? If he can limit walks and he can stay away from Judge, then he's going to be in a good spot. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. I've said this now 4 or 5 times, but not to nail the hammer down too much, but stay away from Judge, stay away from walks, and hopefully Hancock can have a good start, get some length for the Mariners, get 6, 7 even maybe innings, and keep them in this game. Quality start is all I can ask for from any of these guys, specifically Hancock. Woo, you can ask for a little bit better, but quality start from Hancock would go a long way towards the Mariners winning the ball game tonight and towards the Mariners winning the series. In terms of Clark Schmidt, let's talk ERA, xERA, FIP, xFIP, as we always do. ERA, 4.79. His xERA a whole lot lower at 3.15. FIP is a little bit closer, 4.62 FIP, 4.58 xFIP. So the guys, he's given up quite a few homers and walks, basically is how you're going to talk about it. And if you want to know why, I have a stat to show you. In terms of walks per 9, 435 walks per 9. If he were qualified, and he almost is about 1.5 starts from being qualified at this point, in terms of that, he would rank 6th highest in walk percentage. In terms of home runs per 9, that 131, let me just confirm this, would rank top 30 in baseball. For the Mariners, that means opportunity to hit homers. That means opportunity to get your walk rate back into what it was. In terms of Schmidt, he's been good at limiting hard hit, barrel, exit velocities, and he has also gotten whiff. What he struggled to do is get chase, and that is part of why his walk rate is so high. His strikeout percentage is about average, but if the Mariners can limit chase and limit whiff, you're going to be able to get more success. And if you can get the fly balls that he's giving up at a very high rate out of the ballpark, you're going to find more success. In terms of arsenal, 42% cutter, 28% sweeper, 21% curve ball. Sinker, 7%, four-seam fastball, he's barely thrown at 2%, and he's pretty much cut that out of his arsenal the last 2 starts. Sweeper and knuckle curve, these are his 2 pitches that are going to produce whiff. 45% whiff on each of these pitches. If you can avoid getting into pitcher-friendly counts, you're going to not face those pitches as much. You're going to get more cutters, and you're going to have an opportunity to hit. The cutter has a 296 average against a 444 slug against. So don't chase, don't expand. Stay away from the sweeper and the curveball, and get to that cutter and hit the cutter. The sinker as well has been hit very hard. I don't have any specific stats there, but the sinker's been hit hard. He's only throwing at 7%, and again, he's also cutting that out. So it's a mostly 3-pitch mix at this point in time. He has 1 quality start so far this season. The only difference with that was that he limited walks. So if you can work your counts, get him out of the game early, and walk, you're going to find more success. A lot of fly balls up the middle, so hitters are on time a lot, and hopefully we see more of that tonight. Walking into game 2, Max Fried, Bryan Woo. This is one of the best starters in baseball against one of the other best starters in baseball, 2 top 10 guys in terms of ERA right now. Max Fried with a 105 earned run average, 3.41 xERA, 2.92 FIP, 3.57 xFIP. There's a big difference. There's a chance for the Mariners to potentially find some success. His Savant page is nothing special from what I've seen, but he's been top 15 in home runs per 9, top 17 walks per 9, top 10 ground ball percentage, 1st in ERA, 12th in FIP, 6th in WHIP. He has 3 shutouts. 2 1-run outings, 2 2-run outings, and he only has 1 outing less than 5 innings. The only other one that was not a quality start was an outing less than 6 innings. He's gotten into the 6th in almost every start and both of those were the first 2 starts. Since then, he's gone 7 innings, 6 2/3, 7 2/3, 6 innings, 7 innings, 7 innings. Since those first 2 starts, also just 3 runs against him. Like I said, his Savant page isn't anything crazy, but he's about average in strikeout percentage, chase, barrel. 55th percentile in strikeout percentage, 42nd in chase percentage, 57th in barrel percentage. He's been really good at limiting walks and getting ground ball. He's in the 85th percentile in walk percentage, 80th in ground ball percentage. What he struggled to do so far is get some whiff, and that's why his strikeout numbers are a little bit down. 34th percentile in whiff. But this guy has a 7-pitch arsenal. He is going to be difficult to hit. He has a lot of weapons to attack you with. That said, it's a lot of fastballs. 40% four-seam fastballs, 19% sinkers. So overall, that's about 60% fastballs. 15% curveball, 12% sweeper, 10% changeup, 3% cutter, 1% slider. That curveball, 34% whiff against. The sweeper, 37. This guy's tough to hit. It's going to be a challenge for the Mariners, but it's going to be a good challenge. And it is an opportunity for them to go attack one of the better pitchers in baseball with what their guy on the mound. And it's going to be a fantastic game. I'm excited to be there. And we'll see how it goes. Game 3 is an opportunity again for the Mariners to win, but you are going to need Luis Castillo to be actual Luis Castillo instead of 2025 Luis Castillo, and that's kind of a lot to ask. Will Warren is facing off against Luis Castillo in this matchup. Will Warren has a 4.75 ERA, a 4.40 xERA, a 3.62 FIP, and a 3.43 xFIP. Not a huge difference between any of those. If anything, he has been worse than his expected stats really say. That said, his walks per 9 are at 4. His home runs per 9 have been very good at 1, and his strikeouts per 9 have been very good at 10.25. What you got to do is work your counts, get on base. Like I said for game 1, it's very similar in that, except this guy is getting a little bit more strikeouts. The only thing is this guy is not getting deeper into games. He has gone deeper than 5 innings once so far this season. And that was a 7 1/3 inning start last time out against the Athletics. Since his last two starts, his strikeouts have skyrocketed. He had 8 strikeouts 2 starts ago, then 7 against the Athletics. That said, he's getting hit very, very hard. 4th percentile on hard hit, 1st percentile in average exit velocity at 93.3. He's getting hard hit 52% of the time. Barrel percentage in the 21st percentile at 11%. Strikeout rate in the 71st percentile at 25.9%. Almost 26%. He's getting strikeouts, but he's getting hit hard and he's walking guys. In terms of an arsenal, he has 5 pitches. 37% four-seam fastball, 25% sweeper, 17% sinker, 15% changeup, 5% curveball. First, let's talk about the sweeper. The sweeper is producing a 32% whiff rate, but opponents are hitting .333 against it with a .533 slug. That is his second most used pitch. The four-seam has been very good, and this is the scary part for me. The Mariners have struggled to hit four seams for the most part. Part of that is due to Julio Dang Rodriguez, but he's been better as of late. He had a tough Sunday, but started off the series well, and he started off May very well in general. The four seam is getting hit at a 149 tune with a 255 slug. Will Warren is very young. He is 25 years old. He just has 14 major league appearances, so he has the potential to be very good. And will that athletic start last time out start a trend for him is the question, because if he shuts down the Mariners, it very well could. That said, the Mariners offense, you really never know what you're going to get, because this offense could come out of nowhere and score 10 runs, or it could look like the 2023 or 2024 Mariners, where they get blanked over 8 innings by a guy that you don't think should be doing that. He has 8 appearances in the major leagues this year, 36 innings under his belt after 22 and a 2/3 major league innings last year, just 14 MLB appearances, like I said, over the past 2 years. He came up late in the year last year. This guy has potential to be good. Let's hope it doesn't start tonight or tomorrow or Wednesday, whenever that start is. Wednesday. Let's hope it doesn't start Wednesday. But this is a pretty big series for the Mariners. Series with big implications. You really need a series win here to bounce back after being swept by the Jays, because a homestand where you go 1-5 or 0-6 is truly unacceptable, and something that should never happen when you are facing the Toronto Blue Jays, because the Toronto Blue Jays are not a very good baseball team. I hate to break it to you. And you are also heading to San Diego this weekend for 3. That is a tough series against a very, very good team. When they are at home, they are even better. So you got to get yourself a series win here, and hopefully you can scrape out at least one win in San Diego, and then it gets a little bit easier. But it's a difficult stretch. It's a difficult week for the Mariners, and you need to start it off on the right foot so that the vibes don't go into the tank, because baseball is a game where vibes matter. And the Mariners are a team where vibes matter, and vibes have been very good recently up until this weekend, and I think it's the type of thing where you just need to wash that away, act like it never happened, go into this series with confidence, be that team that you've been for the rest of this season since April 7th, from April 7th up until, what was that, May 7th, something like that. What you were for that month, let's go back to being that ball club, and let's go win some series. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. This has been episode 67 of On the Diamond and Into the Deep. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter if you haven't already, at Diamond and Deep. And if you are watching this on YouTube, go get the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. On the Diamond and Into the Deep would be the title in all of those. In terms of if you're listening on any of those, please go like, subscribe. Go get the video version on YouTube at Diamond and Deep. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening. Go Mariners, and peace.